Hey everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Izlo33, welcoming you to this week's predictions for the LCS's semi-finals and the LEC's round 2 of playoffs. We've got 5 action-packed series that's happening this weekend, 4 of which we're going to be discussing in this video. But before we get into that, we need to look at last week's results and go over them. So, let's go into our results for last week. We'll start with the LCS's mid-season showdown lower bracket round 1 results. We had 2 best of 5s there, TSM vs EG and Dignitas vs 100 Thieves. I got correct 1 out of the 2 series, but the series I did get right, which was the TSM EG one, was a perfect prediction. Now that doesn't do anything to my score, it's just a nice commodity to note. And as well as that, I just like noting good predictive skills. As for the LEC, their first week of playoffs began with 3 matches, all from Friday through to Sunday. Fnatic vs SK, we predicted a 3-2 in our Anarchy Analysis series of the week. It was a 3-1. G2 Schalke was a very close series. G2 looked to have thrown the 3rd and 4th game, but they bounced back in the 5th game with that Juggernaut comp, giving us a correct prediction there. And the last game was Mad vs Rogue. I went with a 3-1 to Rogue. Instead, we got a 3-1 to Mad. So that was a bit of a shock, considering the fact that Mad Lions, I didn't feel were going to do too well in playoffs. And they're going to have a crack at G2 this weekend. And as we look at the final tallies, 57 out of 93 in the LEC. And the LCS, we've got 68 out of 94. We're doing very well in terms of these results. So let's jump on over into our predictions for this weekend set of games. So let us go into our LCS predictions. We're kicking it off with the Anarchy Analysis series of the week. C9 versus Team Liquid. Yes, we're covering this one again. We're going to the upper bracket this week as well. So personally, this matchup is going to be very interesting as it's the rematch of the lock-in tournament final, and we're getting it in another best of 5. So we're going to be seeing quite a bit of action between these two teams, and personally, we've got to focus in on that top lane. Alphari versus Fudge yet again is the top lane matchup we're interested in, as they're performing incredibly well. Fudge has stepped up towards the latter stages of this split, and Alphari's just been a constant performer. Now, I feel this series is gonna go to C9 in a 3-2 fashion, as TL struggled against TSM and C9 just decimated 100 Thieves. And personally, that's gonna play factor into our next prediction, which we'll get to in a second. But this series is basically me going back over a series that we've already done. Yeah, it's kind of sad that I'm having to do this, but you look at the other set of games that we've got in the LCS, and it would be a rematch of that. And I made 2 videos on the other matchup. So get ready, strap on in, as Formula LCS returns. I know it didn't happen this week because, let's be honest, that matchup was pretty poor from Dig and 100 Thieves. And yep, let's jump into our next game. I should also say it's going to be a 3-2 to C9. The second series this weekend is TSM 100 Thieves. We've watched this series many times this year, and personally, I'm going to be honest and say that TSM are winning. 3-2. These two teams had a very good showing in the last round, where 100 Thieves just dismantled Dignitas, not allowing them to perform, whereas I felt TSM had the tougher opponent and realistically showed good fortitude against EG, beating them across the rift where they realistically shouldn't. And personally, this series is going to be interesting because TSM have been showing a lot more different styles than what we saw during the regular split. Huni is starting to pick up carry champs instead of being that weak topside and basically sucking up all the pressure and then having the rest of his team perform in the late game. This year, TSM have come in with a completely different roster and they're showing a lot of good stuff, and you have to put a lot of credit down to Bjergsen for how it is turning out. As for 100 Thieves, yes, they dismantled Dig. They still were dismantled by C9. TSM have a far better record against C9, and as such, I feel it's going to be pretty heavily favoured towards TSM. So, I've gone with a TSM win, 3-2. Jumping over to the LEC, we've got Fnatic kicking it off yet again, this time against Schalke in that lower bracket round number 2. This to me is a matchup that's going to be interesting. Schalke performed exceptionally well against G2, whereas Fnatic had a fairly decent performance against SK, but only one team can advance, and I've gone with Fnatic here to advance to face Rogue, and they're going to win 3-1. After G2 being decimated by Schalke in 2 games, realistically, people will probably overestimate Schalke's strength. They'll go over the top on it. But personally, I think that they're going to kind of flop here against Fnatic and basically crash and burn after such a kind of heartbreaking loss to G2, I would say. Nonetheless, Fnatic, though, are still very, very strong, and you have to focus in on Upset yet again. He performed exceptionally well. Niski stepped up for the first time this year. I would say he was the main carry for Fnatic, and realistically, this squad is coming into playoffs with a lot of fire behind him, and I expect him to advance to face Rogue on day number 3. The last series we get to talk about this week is G2 versus Mad as our Anarchy analysis series of the week. Personally, this is going to be close. G2 Mad always have very interesting series when they get to it. Mad last year famously put G2 in the lower bracket round 1 to then lose to him in a rematch in the lower bracket finals. And right now, I feel G2 may lose this one, but I've gone with a G2 3-2 over Mad, as they'll probably just find a way to break down Kazi and Kaiser's bot lane with Reckless and Mickey pulling out something crazy like they did to Schalke in the last game. And yeah, this squad can do and say whatever. It depends if they want a hard int or not. And Mad, they've looked good. I've enjoyed their playoffs run so far. Realistically, Rogue should have beaten them on paper, but they've stepped up. They're showing a lot of strength, but will the characteristics of some of the players falter during this upper bracket final before they even make it to the grand finals for the first time in their team's history? Only time will tell, as we can kind of round out this video here. So, we're gonna cut things off here. We do technically have one more series this weekend. It's Rogue versus the winner of Fnatic and Schalke. Now, you may be wondering, okay, how are you gonna predict this? Well, we have a Twitter prediction. At izl33 on Twitter is where you will find me. and at izl33 on Twitter is where I post all things League, Pokemon, whatever comes to my mind. And I just say my opinion there, let's be honest. And with that, I bid you all adieu. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new around here if you want to. And I will see you guys next time for a Dignitas vs 100 Thieves VOD review. I'll see you guys then.